Let's pivot to the Steelers because, look, my theory is Russell Wilson was never anything but QB1. Justin Fields has played 5 games. The offense was not crisp, to say the least, on Sunday night. It still felt like the kind of game the Steelers have won in the past where the stats look horrible, but the one stat that matters is how many points did we score and how many points did they score. I felt like they were still going to win the game. But it feels like, to me, it's time. And I don't want to say to go back to Russell Wilson because it never got started, but he's QB1. And he fully participated in practice on Wednesday. That, to me, is the cue. That's the sign. Full participation, QB1's ready, no time like now to let Russell Wilson do what they thought he was going to do week 1.
Mike, when they got these two guys, I thought it would really, really be a plus for Pittsburgh. They played some good ball last year. They didn't have consistent quarterback play. And knowing Mike Tomlin the way I do, I know what he was looking for. Let me get somebody who is going to be the field general, who's going to make good decisions out there, who's going to keep us out of trouble, and who the team believes in. And that was Russell Wilson, in my mind. Now they also got Justin Fields. Hey, here's a guy I can put in. If we need a spark, we can do some different things. Maybe I can put him in the red zone and give people what they have to deal with. Justin Fields makes some great plays, but he is not the consistent player at this moment that Russell Wilson is. I was at practice on Thursday, and Russell was not going full speed. He was running the scout team. He was throwing with the backup receivers against Pittsburgh's #1 defense, and he was lighting it up. Those balls were on the money. People were on the sideline scratching their head. The defensive guys that were out there were saying, oh, wow, how did he get that ball in? And I thought to myself, when Russell's ready to go, I'm sure he's going to be back in there. I asked Coach Tomlin about it. He said, I love both my quarterbacks. Justin's been great for us. We'll see what happens when Russell gets ready. Right now, he's not 100%. Well, as you mentioned, he went through practice full go. I would not be surprised at all to see Russell Wilson in the lineup.
Yeah, first time in 5 weeks he was a full participant. And if they can get a running game, that's when Russell Wilson's at his best. That play action, and he fires that beautiful deep ball, and they've got George Pickens who can go get it. Now, I don't know, should they be in the Davante Adams mix? That's maybe the next question. But I think Russell Wilson, if he's healthy, he's still got it. The Broncos situation was an aberration because he was being used in a way that didn't fit his skill set with a team that didn't fit his skill set. The Steelers are closer to what the Seahawks were. I'd like more of a running game, like I said, but I think it can work well. What do you think about the possibility of Davante Adams to Pittsburgh? They're reportedly still one of the few teams in the mix to make that trade.
I think Davante Adams would help the Steelers if they don't have to give up too much to get him. George Pickens is a tremendous talent. They've got some other young receivers, but a veteran guy who knows what he's doing to work in this lineup would be good. And Russell, I'll tell you, with what they're doing now in Arthur Smith's offense, you mentioned what he did in Pittsburgh. This is exactly what Arthur Smith wants to do. And I think with a quarterback who kind of scares the defense in a different way, that'll help the running game as well.
I've been a big believer in Mike Tomlin all the way back to when he was defensive coordinator of the Vikings for 1 year in 2006. I was banging the drum for the Steelers to hire him. And I heard last year that the Vikings actually were thinking about moving on from Brad Childress and making Mike Tomlin the head coach, which left me very disappointed to learn that. that thought was at least rocketing around the front offices of the Vikings, and Tomlin could have been the head coach there for the last 18 years. But one of the things that I've heard from other coaches about Tomlin, his ability to kind of speak to the better angels of players, to get them to conform, to get them to comply. What is it about him that allows him to just craft the right message to keep a guy that under another coach would be a problem from being a problem under Mike Tomlin?
I think he just has a sense of how to communicate with people, and they trust him and they believe in him. I remember when I hired him, he was 29 years old, and he's just coming in to coach our defensive backs, replacing Herm Edwards. So the first meeting, now we've got a veteran defensive backfield room at that time, Rondé Barber, John Lynch, Donnie Abraham. We've got some high-powered guys. So I said in the back of the room, I'm going to check on this guy. If he needs some help in these first couple of meetings, I'll be there. 5 minutes into the meeting, Mike, I left and went to some other room. He had it totally under control. I had those guys mesmerized. And at that moment, I said, yeah, this guy's going to really be something. But he talks the players' language. He thinks like a player. He understands what they're going through. He's honest. He's tough with them, but he does it in a way that they can relate to.
Michael Hawley and I have been talking about plans to put together a book of all of the Mike Tomlin sayings, and he keeps coming up with more of them. He said recently there's a fine line between drinking wine and squishing grapes. I mean, and it's always something you've never heard before. It's not somebody else's grandpa always used to say this. It's some brand new thing you've never heard before that is perfect. Has he always been that way?
Always been that way. And those are classics, but he was that way as a young guy. And yes, you want to eat the hot dog. The hot dog's good. You don't want to see how the hot dog's made.
Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.